All righty. There we go. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show. As the New York Knickerbockers won a game that was more interesting than it had any right to be, given who they were playing. Shout out to the remains of the Philadelphia 76ers. Final score 105-91. I believe the Sixers covered by a half a point. We're going on a little run at the end of the fourth quarter there after the Knicks had gone up by, I believe they went by, 23 points. But look, it was a wire-to-wire win for the Knicks. You know the rule, a win is a win, and certainly a double-digit win in which you did eventually, even if it took longer than it should have, pull away. And, should you have beaten this team by, probably 30 or more points? Yeah, you probably should have. But if we're being fair, and I don't know if this is a little bit too optimistic, it's not like the Knicks were fully healthy either. Obviously missing Jalen Brunson, but also missing Karl-Anthony Towns. So, I don't know, show me pretty much any team in the NBA. If you're going to take away their two best players, it at least opens the door for some level of, intrigue, I guess would be the right word. And, you add in Deuce McBride, you add in campaign. And look, I think part of the conversation tonight can certainly be, if anybody wants it, to be about, how dependent the Knicks are on those two particular players for different reasons. Obviously, the conversation over the last few weeks has turned to the things that have emerged in both a positive sense and a negative sense in Jalen Brunson's absence. And a big part of that is Karl-Anthony Towns continuing to prop up an offense that is, even with Towns in there, still barely above the bottom 10 in the NBA. Again, since Brunson has gone out, once you take out his spacing, all of a sudden, all this stuff that we've been loving from OG Anunoby and all the stuff that we've been loving from Mikal Bridges, and you go up and down the roster, well, that sort of stuff gets a little bit harder to pull off. And I guess, if you want to look at tonight and say, all right, well, against this team, should OG Anunoby be more than, 7 of 16 from the field? Certainly should Mikal Bridges be better than 6 of 16, although I think some of that was just him missing shots. I think both of those conversations are fair. Where I'm going to spin this into a positive is one of my 2 or 3 favorite stats of the game is OG Anunoby setting, I believe for the second time in about a week, a new career high in free throws attempted. He attempted 13 free throws. He is discovering something right now, and maybe that's the wrong word to use, because the way he's playing is the same way that he's always played, at least since he's come to the Knicks. But the level of confidence, and obviously, Breen talked about this all night, and we've, I think, talked about it generally over the last few weeks. The level of confidence that OG Anunoby is playing with tonight, finishes this game with 27 points on 16 shots. He's playing like an all-star level player right now. That said, I don't think OG Anunoby is the leading story from this game. Mikal Bridges, I mentioned his struggles from the field, hit some big shots in the third quarter as the Knicks offense was really, getting OG had a little bit of a rough patch in the third quarter where he turned it over a few times and wasn't able to get the shots off as the Sixers converged. The one negative number in his stat line was 6 turnovers. A bunch of those were in the third quarter. So Mikal Bridges hit some big shots in the third, only finishes with 14 points on 6 of 16 shooting, although he was a team high plus 23. He's not the lead story. Delon Wright having another solid start in the place of pick your missing point guard, is continuing to show himself to be a competent addition to the roster. I think at this point, all things considered, you would have to say, and Jeremy talked about this a little bit on our show, that the Knicks won that trade because they're getting quality minutes. I mean, the dude played 33 minutes tonight, and I thought looked pretty good. I mean, he got 3 steals, made some shots, made some nice passes. His defense is absolutely a big part of what is working for them right now. He's not going to be the lead story of this game. No, the lead story of this game is going to be Landry Shamet. And Landry Shamet has had himself a season. Started off, as oh, wow, this guy that we kind of signed as something of an afterthought. Like, would he make the roster? Would he not make the roster? Somewhat late in the summer, all of a sudden we got to the preseason and it was like, oh, he's going to be a rotation player, and Tibbs is going to trust him and Tibbs is going to give him real minutes, even though, if they go with, 4 backups at the same time, along with a starter, they were going to be awfully small out there with Campaign and Deuce Pride and Tyler and not Tyler Kolek and Cameron Payne. It didn't matter. Clearly, Tibbs liked something about him. He liked what he brought, I think, on the defensive end. And, a lot of things about Tibbs' reputation, and yes, we will get to Thibodeau's achievement a little bit later, are unearned. One of those things is that he does not appreciate shot makers. Like, the man's not stupid. He knows you need to make shots to win games. And if you give him a guy who is a threat from the outside, he's going to, and especially a guy who doesn't hesitate. And that was always the key with Shamet, is I think he appreciated the fact that on a team where not a lot of players are willing to run and gun, so to speak, Shamet is willing to do that. So, presumed member of the rotation, gets hurt before the end of the preseason. We were kind of back and forth on whether or not he was going to end up getting a roster spot, not end up getting a roster spot. And he eventually comes back with the team. Not long after, reclaims his rotation spot. And it is pretty universally underwhelming. And it's underwhelming because the guy who throughout his entire career has been referred to as a shooter did the thing that he's done pretty much throughout the entirety of his career. And that's not hit enough shots, or at least not hit enough shots to justify that reputation. When you are DeLon Wright and you bring the level of defense that DeLon Wright brings, you could carry whatever DeLon Wright's career 3-point percentage is. It's not very good. Shamet has a higher 3-point percentage than that because he started off his career very, very good from 3. But over the last 3-4 years, it has left a lot to be desired. So, and then on the defensive end, like, yeah, he tries hard and all that, and he never gives up on a possession, but he's also like, he's small. He might get beat sometimes. There are times where he makes an error in judgment as far as whether to switch or not to switch, or, he might not take the right position. Like, sometimes trying hard isn't enough. And so there's all these things that, relegated Landry Shamet to this place where I think a lot of Knicks fans would have been perfectly fine never seeing him enter another game for this team. And then a funny thing happened after the All-Star break, which is that the shooter, or the alleged shooter, actually started hitting shots. And I think it was his first, I have it right here. I mean, I don't know how long you want to go for with this. If you go his first 10 games after the All-Star break, he hit 45.8% of his threes. And then we're not talking huge attempts. We're talking 11 for 24 over 10 games. So a little bit more than 1 3 a game, but this is in only 13.6 minutes a game. So he's going out there. He's taking about 2.5 threes per game in about, 13 minutes. He's reclaiming some of that belief that maybe you had in him. And then he goes back into another slump. And over the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games after that, back down to 20% from 3, 5 of 24. And I think at that point, we were ready to call it. We were ready to call it. Time of death was what was the last game that he didn't shoot particularly well from deep. March 25th against Dallas. Although in that Dallas game, he only made 1 of 4 from 3. He did make 3 of 3 from inside the arc. So maybe that was a sign of things turning around. And sure enough, when the Knicks have needed, with no campaign and no Brunson and no Deuce, they needed someone to step up in the rotation. Over the 3 games coming into this one, Shamet had hit 8 of 16 attempts from 3 and 11 of 22 overall, averaged exactly 10 points a game over the 3 games before this one, and then culminating tonight in what was unquestionably not close, his best game as a Knick, 20 points, 7 of 12 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3. And for me, Landry Shamet is the player of the game, and Landry Shamet is the story of the game. And you guys know me by now. I don't tend to go on and on about things that I don't think matter big picture. And the reason I just gave Landry Shamet a solid 5-6 minutes of my time here in the opening monologue is because of a conversation I had with Andrew Claudio at the start of tonight's playback watch along. Shout out to everybody who checked us out on playback and on YouTube, which was Andrew basically saying, I kind of assume, I'm saying for Andrew, that he assumed that Shamet was going to get rotation minutes come playoff time. And I was like, you're nuts. You're nuts. You know, the way games are spaced out in the first round, especially, Tibbs is going to be able to throw Bridges out there for 38 minutes and OG out there for 38 minutes. And Hart, I mean, that's a different conversation. But if he wanted to, he could throw him out there for 38 minutes. And then Brunson and Cat, it doesn't even matter what they get. But between the minutes you're going to give to Mitch, now that we're seeing that he's comfortable with the Mitch and Cat lineups together, between the minutes Deuce is going to get, and between the minutes and the minutes that Campaign is going to get, I was like, I just don't see the minutes. You know, maybe 3-4 minutes in a first half here or there. And a game like tonight, and it's not only a game like tonight, it's now the last 4 games. So if you go now 4 games, 50 points over 4 games, and a total of, if I could do some quick math, which is always fun, 14 of 11 threes tonight, man. 11 threes in 34 minutes. 14 of 27. So that's now better than 50% from deep over these 4 games. I wonder if that's enough. I wonder if that's enough to get him 5 minutes in the first half of game 1 against whoever it is, Milwaukee or Detroit. And if he plays pretty well in those 5 minutes, I wonder if it's enough to get him, 3 minutes in the second half of that same game. And then if those go well, and again, like, you're hoping the first round playoff series that the Knicks play does not come down to the 8 minutes that the 9th man on the roster might play, but stranger things have happened. It's guys like that could swing a game, and sometimes all it takes is one game to swing a series. So I thought Shamet, after what has been a really up and down season for him, more down than up, and one that he's gotten a lot of, been the target of a lot of frustrations, whether or not they were fully deserved or not. We could have, it's a different story, but I thought he deserved to get his flowers in this game. Overall, look, it's the Knicks' 48th win of the year. They are now 48-27. I believe this is their high watermark for the most games over 500 that they have been. I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure that it is. And they are playing well at the right time. Did they play their best basketball tonight? Again, no. But given who they were missing, and given the fact that they faced some adversity, what was a 17-point lead? Actually, did it ever get up to above 17 in the first half? I'm not sure, but it was 17 points at the half. Given that a 17-point league went down to 5 because the Sixers actually started hitting some shots, and the Knicks had 8 points through the first 9 minutes of the third quarter, which, again, we love talking about all the increased opportunities and all this stuff for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Well, if your best 2 offensive players are OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, sometimes you're going to have a 9-minute stretch where you have 8 points, and that's just reality of the situation. One name that I have not mentioned tonight is Josh Hart. Was not, let's just say, my favorite Josh Hart game. Would love to see him get going at some point in these next 7 games. I should mention Mitchell Robinson. Congratulations, Andrew, by the way. You took the under on 24.5 minutes, which was the line that we set for Mitch minutes before this game. He played 21 minutes. Exceptional first half for Mitch. A little bit of a more muted impact in the second half, but still 14 rebounds, 7 on the offensive glass. All 14 of his points came in the first half. Tyler Kolek, is another 7 assists. However, his first real pockmark as far his little mini rookie resume here with 4 turnovers. Some of those not so great. Sixers pressured him and he did not always respond well to that pressure. Again, shout out Benji Ritholtz. He's talked about this several times. Tyler Kolek needs to score. If he does not establish himself as a scorer, he becomes a lot tougher to play. Did make I thought he had a nice runner down the stretch, which hopefully is confidence boosting. Did hit a 3 in this game, so that's good too. Precious Achiuwa, man, Precious, take a bow, brother. 1 for 11 from the field. I know Bridges went 1 for 11 in the first half against Philly. The same Philly team, the same shitty team. He also came up with some really big buckets in the third quarter. Precious Achiuwa to go 1 of 11 against the Sixers team. That's special stuff, my friend. And many of those 10 misses were not close. And the one make that he had, the make was a legit make. It was a nice move and it was a nice finish. It was a something from short mid-range. So in any case, but 1 for 11 for Precious Achiuwa with 2 turnovers to boot. He played some nice defense, so I don't want to, get on him too much. But again, the less said about him, the better. Again, you did what you had to do against a very bad basketball team. Did they know they obviously were playing a terrible basketball team tonight? Of course they did. That's, I hope, why Karl Anthony Towns sat at this game. That's, I hope, why they were not playing what I would define as the most serious basketball throughout some of this one. But, you did what you had to do to win. Tom Thibodeau ties Pat Riley for most wins, 4th most wins in franchise history. A nice achievement for sure. I think it'll probably mean something to Tibbs if he, I'm assuming he's going to get another win as Knicks coach. To pass Pat. Obviously, Pat was only here for 4 years. This is Tom's 5th year. But I'll save more thoughts on that for whenever Tibbs passes Pat, because I'm not sure it was very much coaching involved in this game one way or another. That's really it. I mean, we could go in a bunch of different directions with this one. Whatever you guys want to talk about is cool. I would think that the conversation tonight will be mostly positive, but you never know. If you want to be frustrated with this team that they let it get down to 5 points against, again, I would say pretty comfortably the worst team the Knicks have faced this year, that's fine. But again, no Brunson, no Cat, no Deuce, no Cam, and you were up by 23 points in the fourth quarter. So you again, did what you needed to do. Okay. And I did what I needed to do there on the opening monologue. And now I will do not what I have to do, but what I want to do. And that is say some kind words about our friends from Bird Dogs. So I changed before. If you saw me last or 2 nights ago, I was wearing my Bird Dogs stretchy shorts, that I had gotten a while back. Not even the newest version. And they, by the way, they hold up great. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown these things in the wash, because like I was saying yesterday, oftentimes I go to the gym in these shorts because they're great gym shorts. They're great fashion shorts, both. Today, I actually switched it up. I had on my Bird Dog. I call them joggers. I don't know if that's the proper name. I hope Bird Dogs doesn't get mad at me, but they're tapered at the ankle. I don't usually love those kind of pants because I just, for whatever reason, I don't like the way they feel and I don't like the way they fit me. These ones, as per usual with Bird Dogs, they're incredibly comfortable and I love the way they look. I like the way they look with some different types of sneakers. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about the stretch khaki shorts because they're the newest thing that Bird Dogs has going on. They look great. They feel great. Again, they hold up well over the course of time. One more thing. The thing with shorts for me, there's like a very, especially since I'm a short guy, not a shorts guy. I am a shorts guy. I like wearing shorts, but I'm also a short human being. I'm 5'6". So like, if I don't want my shorts to be too short because then it looks kind of funny, but I also don't want them to be too long because then I'm like, you remember in like the style in the 90s where people would wear these like giant denim jeans and I don't want that look either. So it really has to be like a happy medium for me, and Bird Dogs gets it right every time. Anyway, for a limited time, Knicks Film School listeners get a free Bird Dogs hat, which I of course forgot to bring down. It's beautiful though, I promise you. It's up in my closet. Go back to last night's video if you want to see me wear it. You get the free hat with any order if you use code KFS at birddogs.com. Again, get the free hat. It's super sharp when you use code KFS at birddogs.com. Please support the show and let them know that Knicks Film School sent you. All righty. Let's talk about the Knicks. Oh yeah, for a limited time, the hat. Yeah, you got to get the hat. Get in on the action now. Okay. Fabian Stewart, what's going on, Precious? Fabian, how do you say precious in Chinese? My Lord. Yeah, it was that kind of a game. And the thing about tonight is, unfortunately, I don't think a single Knick fan watching tonight was like, wow, I would have never believed that Precious Achiuwa was capable of this level of a game. This is unfortunately what he is. And I say unfortunate, and it really is unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the team, and it's unfortunate for him. And if there's one thing that I have to absolutely take a massive, not little, massive L on, I'm sure you can go back and find multiple podcasts where I said it or multiple newsletters where I wrote this. I was very high on Precious coming into the year, to the point where I think I may have predicted before the season started that Mitchell Robinson was never going to play another game for the Knicks because they would use his contract as a trade chip at the deadline. And the reason I felt comfortable saying that they would use that contract as a trade chip at the deadline is because I thought Precious would fit in so well. I thought he would give them the sort of switchable defensive five that in backup units, when Karl Anthony Towns was not on the floor, would just make them hell on wheels defensively. And I'm like, all right, it's backup units. He's going to be the only non-spacer out there. They made it work with him last year when he was one of 3 non-spacers. Think about how many minutes he played with Isaiah Hartenstein and Josh Hart on the team last year, and they made it work. And that was because he was, again, hell on wheels on the offensive glass. He could make a nice little pass for you. He could make a nice little shot for you. And you just coming off of last year where he had a really, really impactful stretch. You thought, okay, he's still a fairly young player. Sometimes it takes big guys a little while to develop. Maybe this is going to be the best year of Precious Achiuwa's career. It has not been. He has been inconsistent. And again, that's putting it kindly because his highs have been not that high. And the lows have been like, we're sitting there. Well, I had my head in my hands a half a dozen times tonight with things that he did on the offensive end. Like, it's incredibly frustrating, but I know when this team is fully healthy in the playoffs, Precious Achiuwa is not going to see the floor. And I think the only question left is, does Precious lose a rotation spot if they get fully healthy before the playoffs? Probably not, because I don't think they're going to be having their foot on the gas all the way through, because I think they're going to lock up the 3 seed pretty, in the not too distant future. I think the magic number, I should say, is now 3. For them to lock up the 3 seed. Look, there's a very long way of saying that Precious Achiuwa has not been great this season and was certainly not good tonight. So, you want to have at it with Precious? Have at it with Precious. Thanks, Fabian. Rich McLeod, what's going on, Rich? This super chat goes out to my father's son. Here's the thing, though, Rich. If you have any brothers, you may be praising them instead of yourself. For anybody who doesn't know, I told a riddle on the playback watch along tonight that had, speaking of head in your hands, Andrew Claudio was twisted into a pretzel when I threw this riddle at him. And I was very proud of myself. It was in lieu of trivia, which we usually do when these games get out of hand on the playback watch along. But we had some fun with it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, Rich. Thank you. Let's go Mets. Drew P, what's going on, Drew? 20 minutes, 14 for Mitchell Robinson, 7 offensive rebounds, 3 stocks, plus a Euro step. So we should put it to a vote. I don't know. Can we put Kevin? I have no idea if we are capable of putting any kind of a poll in the YouTube. Probably not. If you are, I think I want to know. I want to hear from the people. What was the thing that that got them off their feet more? Mitchell Robinson taking the ball essentially the length of the court and Euro stepping his way to a transition dunk, or OG Anunoby with one of the, I got to tell you, I'm not going to go back too long. Let's just go Tibbs era. That might be one of my 5. That might be one of the 5 best dunks we've seen in the Tibbs era. I don't think that's hyperbole. That OG Anunoby dunk there in the fourth quarter to make it 90-74. That was absolutely insane. I'd love to know what people liked more. I would go with the OG dunk for as great as the Mitch Euro step was. But yeah, I talk about Mitchell Robinson for a second. Mitch has been far more up than down since he's come back. He has generally progressed with steps forward. Not with each passing game. He's had a couple downs after some ups, but for the most part, it has been trending upwards. And then I think tonight in the first half, I think you could say this was probably his best half. And it's not just because of the 14 points. I just think he was just all of the things that you want to see from Mitchell Robinson, I think you saw, or that you would reasonably want to see from Mitchell Robinson. I think you saw. Look, he only played 20 minutes, and I think since he has come back, I want to say his max minutes since he's come back have been, I'm going to guess he has not played 24 minutes in a game since he's come back. Hold on. 23-44, that came in the Miami win. And after that, nothing else above the next highest is tonight at 20 minutes. I don't know, probably 20 minutes and a few seconds, whatever. But so that might be where he maxes out, which is fine. I'm really curious how many minutes Mitch plays in the playoffs because for a few reasons. Reason number one, how many minutes are we getting of Cat and Mitch together? It's the most obvious one. And then directly related to that, how many minutes are we getting for Cat each game? And that may seem predetermined, but look, Cat, it's the regular season, or it's been the regular season. Like Tibbs, there are games where Karl-Anthony Towns is good defensively or better defensively. There are games when Karl-Anthony Towns makes you question, like, many things that you don't want to question because of his defense. It doesn't matter. Like, it's the regular season. Tibbs is have him go out there unless he's in foul trouble to get his, at least 34, 35, 36, or more minutes. Obviously, he's pushed when they've been down some centers, he's pushed Cat a lot more than that at times. And by the way, even in situations where, before maybe Mitch was healthy or when Mitch has been out since he's come back, like if they needed if it was a defensive situation, a lot of times like he'll trust Cat there. Like I do think there was a trust factor there. All that being said, if I don't think Tibbs will hesitate if he feels like, look, we have enough good going. We feel good enough about our ability to generate points right now, but we're really having trouble stopping, insert your opponent here. Are we 100% sure the Cat's guaranteed to play 34, 35, 36 minutes in every playoff game? Or might there be instances where Cat only plays 28 minutes in a game, And then all of a sudden, okay, so Mitch is obviously getting all the minutes that he's not playing, and then plus the minutes maybe that Cat is playing. And then you could even go back to the Mitch Cat thing. It's like, all right, well, what's the most minutes that we've seen from Mitch and Cat so far in a game? I don't think we've seen it for more than 7 or 8 minutes in a game. Maybe I'm forgetting something, and I feel like even that's heavy. I'll look up their lineup stats together right now, but it really like there's a world where Mitchell Robinson can play a significant number of minutes for this team in important playoff games. Do you want to rely on that? That's where it gets tricky because, as we know, throughout the course of his career, Mitch has not always been the most consistent guy. He's been more consistent as he has gotten further along in his career. But again, not as consistent as you would like. Robinson and Cat, by the way, this season in 11 games together have played 40 minutes. So it's an average of just under 4 minutes per game. So that gives you an idea of how much they have played together. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Mitch, but they're going to look, needless to say, they're going to need him. They're going to need him in the playoffs. Thanks, Drew. By the way, we have an update from Kevin. So far, all the votes in the chat are for OG. Okay. Some people are insisting to include the RJ Dunk versus Toronto, which was not an option in this poll. Was that the one at the very end of regulation? I think, right? That was a good one. Yeah. Did they not lose that game, though? Or am I imagining that? I might be imagining that. Because if I recall correctly, they had won some games in a row. Yeah, I think they lost in OT too. Because if I remember that night, and I look, my brain is so shot, it's scary. But I was excited that night because the Knicks have been playing well. They were one of the big stories in the NBA. And Jake Fisher had asked me to come on his podcast for the first time. And sure enough, it turned out to be the last ever edition of that podcast because he was switching to, I forget where he switched to. I think he switched to Yahoo. In any case, that's what I remember about that night. So, yeah. Thanks. We got a new one from Kevin Danishevsky. Thanks for coming and hanging out in the watch along tonight. One takeaway is that Mitch and OG look like beasts. My hot take, here we go. When Kevin admits that he has a hot take, it's going to be hot. My hot take is that I would punt on Cleveland tomorrow. No JB and no Deuce and no CP equals no shot of winning that game. Let Cat rest. Well, typically speaking, the Knicks do not punt games. And I would wager that they're thinking in sitting Cat tonight and playing Mitch tonight is that they played the odds. They figured they'd be able to get this win without Cat, and they bet correctly so they could have Cat tomorrow. Now, and there's 2 days off after that. Notably. Is that wise thinking? I don't know. What I will tell you, though, is they have 3 remaining back-to-backs. So, if they're thinking, and again, it just because they did it on this back-to-back against this disaster of a basketball team, does not mean that they will do it on other back-to-backs. Their other back-to-backs, by the way, Atlanta on Saturday, Phoenix on Sunday. That one involves travel. And then next Thursday, Detroit. Friday, Cleveland. Yeah, so just because they did it on this back-to-back, what I was going to propose is maybe they're thinking like, hey, we're going to switch off the centers for all the remaining back-to-backs. And we're going to let Towns play in one and Mitch play in the other. If they did that, Kevin, then that would mean that Karl-Anthony Towns would be playing only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games between Sunday, March 30th and April, at the earliest, April 19th. So he'd be playing only 5 games over the course of 21 days. With no games played, at least 5 games before the first, or at least 5 days before the first playoff, potentially more than that. That's enough rest, I think. I think you would agree with that. Now, is that their plan? I don't know. And to get back to your theory here, I think what you're thinking is, well, they're not going to beat Cleveland because they don't have these guys anyway. So why waste a Towns game? It's valid. It's absolutely valid. I'm trying to think of what the real pushback is to that. I mean, I guess the pushback is like, hey, but here's the pushback. The pushback is simple. We value the evidence that we can get from this game. And evidence on two fronts. We value the evidence that we could just get from an X's and O's perspective, seeing how certain guys do against this Cleveland team. And also potentially evidence of like, hey, maybe we'll actually give our guys some confidence that they could beat one of these elite teams. Is that realistic? I don't know. Here's what I do know. If you sit Towns tomorrow, you have 0% chance of beating this Cavs team. None whatsoever, unless the Cavs are sitting guys. If you play Cat, you could beat this team because guess what? The Cavs have been struggling lately. Now, I know I'm going around and around. The fact that the Cavs are struggling lately doesn't run counter to what I just said a minute ago, which is that you could instill some confidence, because if you win, you're going to say, the Cavs, they've had it wrapped up for a while. They're not going full. Look, here's where I land. I think there are more than enough opportunities remaining, given the fact that the magic number is now 3. I think there are more than enough games remaining for the Knicks where they could feel confident that if resting Karl-Anthony Towns is a priority down the stretch, they will get an opportunity to do so, and they do not need to do so tomorrow against the Cavs. And I do think, even though the Cavs may be struggling right now, I do think that there is more to be gained than lost in, even without Jalen Brunson, going out and giving it your all against that Cavs team, even on the road. Because, hey, if you go out there and you do get kind of smoked, guess what? You didn't have Jalen Brunson. So, I don't know that. Now, look, there's a possibility that they go out there and they lose by 40, in which case, even if you don't have Jalen Brunson, still probably is like, oh, man, this is we don't love the way this feels. So that exists. Like, again, without anything, there's always pluses and minuses. There's always good sides and bad sides. For me, Kevin, I think there's more to be gained than loss. And again, with the caveat that I think you're going to be able to get opportunities to rest Cat down the stretch. It's a very valid point though on your end. And I want to be very clear that I'm taking a different position, but if they did decide to do that, I don't think it would be crazy at all. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate you. Armand Bird I think I got it right. Has Precious been hanging out with Rozier and Porter? Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Is that where we are? I think that's that's where we are. I don't think Precious Achiuwa is going to be back on this basketball team next year. The only question I have is whether they're going to be able to use his expiring contract in some sort of a sign and trade scenario. I doubt that at this point, because I'm not, to use that in any real way is going to have to be for real money. And I don't know that there's a team out there that's just going to be like, oh yeah, we'll take on $7.2 million of Precious Achiuwa next season because you're going to toss us not great second round pick. Like, if he had played better this year, maybe that would be in the cards. I just don't think it is. But so yeah, I think Precious's days of being a useful contributor, sadly, may be behind us here, which, it's tough because that dude had some really nice moments in a Knicks uniform. He really has. And maybe he'll still have some more. I shouldn't start throwing dirt on the grave just yet. There's still time for him to come back around. But I'll tell you this, given how he's played this year, I don't know if I'd be thrilled to be his agent this summer, trying to find him a spot where he's going to have a guaranteed or even semi good chance at being a rotation player next year for any team. But we'll see. Thanks, Armin. And thanks for hanging out on the playback tonight. Jessica, what's going on, Jess? 5 more wins would make my eyes Robert Cross. Let's go, Knicks. Okay. You want to look at it? Let's look at it. So the Knicks have 7 games remaining. To get 53 wins, as Jessica said, they need to win 5 more games. Just 5. At Cleveland tomorrow. Don't think I'm counting on a win there. Although you never know. I should actually check the Cavs injury report. Ty Jerome is out. That's it. Everybody else is probably going to play. Then we go 2 days off. Then Saturday against Atlanta. Is that going to be the Jalen Brunson return game? I don't know. The Hawks have been playing pretty frisky ball. They did lose to the Trailblazers tonight at home by 14 points. Prior to that, they smoked the Bucks, who beat the Suns tonight because the Suns are a cadaver. Before that, lost to the Heat, lost to the Rockets, beat the Sixers team, beat the Warriors without Steph Curry, beat the Hornets, lost to the Nets, lost to the Clippers. Okay, that's enough. Look, the Hawks, that game is on the road, but there's going to be a lot of Knicks fans. Afternoon start time. Even if you don't have Jalen Brunson, you should be able to win that game. The Phoenix Suns are I mean, look, again, you never know. Things happen. They are so, just like over this year, I think. Watch Colin Gillespie goes out and has 9 threes on Sunday, but I think it is not unreasonable to expect that the Knicks could sweep both of those games over the weekend. So let's just say they do. That goes to 2-1. Then you got Boston on Tuesday. Who is Boston playing in that game? Is Boston still going to be alive potentially for the top seed? Do they care about getting the top seed? I don't know. They have a very easy schedule down the stretch. They could go undefeated. The Cavs would have to lose a bunch of games. What's funny is that if the Knicks ever beat the Cavs tomorrow, it could increase the likelihood that Boston plays all their guys against the Knicks in a week or so. So whatever. I don't know that I'm willing to sit here right now and say that they're going to beat Boston. But you never know. So let's go 2-2. And then the last 3 games at Detroit, and then Cleveland at home on the second night of a back-to-back, and then at Brooklyn. I think they can win all 3 of those games. And I think they can win all 3 of those games because I don't think Cleveland's going to play their guys on that Friday night game. The Nets are going to be trying very hard to lose. And that leaves Detroit. And I guess the Detroit game, I would guess, is going to be the one that is the toughest. Now, the last thing I'll say, Jessica, and I know Robert Cross doesn't want to hear this. I think there's a very strong possibility the Knicks have nothing to play for by. I want to check one thing because Indiana, they have one really definitely hard game remaining on their schedule, and it's a game at Denver. That game takes place on Sunday. Their next 2 games are Charlotte at home and Utah at home. They're not going to lose either of those games. So the Denver game at Denver on Sunday for the Pacers. And then, by the way, after that, they play the Wizards at home. So let's say they lose that Denver game and the Knicks can beat Atlanta and beat Phoenix. If that's the case, then the Knicks will clinch the 3rd seed by Sunday night. In which case, again, how much are they going to have their foot on the gas over those last 4 games? I don't know. Long story short, if I had to bet on it right now, I would probably wager the Knicks finish the season with between 51 and 52. I'll go 52. What the hell? Say 52. Hope I'm wrong. Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Next up, we're doing, and I think this is the last thing we're doing tonight, unless there's anything else that comes in. Our out-of-town scoreboard presented by T Squared Social. We got the watch party coming up at T Squared this Saturday night, this Saturday afternoon. It is going to be Family Day. Oh, we don't know. We have more super chats. Oh, great. A bunch more came in. Wonderful. It's going to be Family Day at T Squared Social, 3 p.m. tip-off. But we're going to be there before that at 1:30 p.m. I'm just going to say that I got very excited earlier today because Tiger Woods, I hope this was not an April Fool's joke. If anybody knows whether it is an April Fool's joke, please let me know. Tiger Woods announced that he's going to be playing in the Masters. Tiger Woods is my favorite athlete of all time. And if he makes the freaking cut, I am going to be so into Saturday at Augusta. So that will be on, unless actually, hold on. Am I completely messing up my weekend? I think the Augusta might be next weekend. I think I just screwed that whole thing up. Whatever. Even if there isn't the Masters on this weekend, there's going to be the Knicks are on, and there's going to be other great stuff. There'll be, I'm sure, some college game or another. Just come out and bring your family if you want. Watch the Knicks play the Hawks. Hopefully get a win. Kickoff at 1:30 p.m. Tip-off at 3 p.m. I should probably find out if the actual Masters is this weekend. Hold on. Masters tournament. Masters 2025. No, it's not this weekend. It's next weekend. Oh, well. And I'm seeing now that it's a joke. So not only did I get the date of the Masters wrong, Tiger Woods is not actually playing in the Masters. This is so upsetting. I'm really dejected now. I don't even know if I can continue with the postgame show. All right. Out-of-town scoreboard. What do we got? Timberwolves playing the Nuggets right now. It's the only active game. Blazers over the Hawks, mentioned that. Bucks over the Suns, mentioned that. Magic over the Spurs. Bulls over the Raptors. And Warriors over the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have not lost or have not won, by the way, since they fired their coach. I just want that noted for the record. Okay. That was a journey. That has been your out-of-town scoreboard presented by T Squared Social. All right. Anthony Sixto. It was nice of the Knicks to let the Philly G League team play a real NBA game. Trust the process. I'm going to go laugh at Philly for 10 seconds. Hashtag 53 wins. Listen, man, you're not going to be laughing if they end up with Cooper Flagg in about 2 months or whatever it is. 3 months. That would be highly unfortunate. But look, even if they do lose the remainder of their games, which is entirely possible, and I would maybe dare I say likely at this point, they are still probably 5 gonna have a decent chance of losing their pick. So let's keep hope alive for that. Thanks, Anthony. Oscar Lung, what's going on, Oscar? Hi from Hong Kong. Hopefully a competitive game tomorrow. I wonder, Oscar, how many Knicks fans care about tomorrow night's game? Like, I mentioned it when we were doing the playback. Mike Breen said, or excuse me, Clyde said twice. Said it early and he said it again late. The Knicks have to show up tomorrow. The Knicks have to compete tomorrow. And I'm sitting here like, how much do I really like? They don't have their best player. You know, I'm not saying you're, waiting on bated breath here. You're just saying you're hopeful for a competitive game. I'm hopeful for a competitive game too. I guess my point is like, if they go out there, they play some good defense for a half, and then the Cleveland just has too much offense, and the Knicks offense struggles to generate solid looks in the second half, and they lose the game by, 17 points or something. Am I going to be apoplectic? Probably not. I actually, I maybe famous last words. I struggle to imagine a scenario where I come out of tomorrow night's game feeling like extremely dejected just because they don't have Brunson, and like, all right, let's say Anunoby doesn't have a good, like, has a terrible game, and Bridges has a terrible game, and I guess maybe if Cat had a bad game, but even then, it's like, all right, he missed tonight with a knee. How much do you make of that? Because, like, without Jalen Brunson, if the Cavs are actually going to play well, like, the Knicks should not be in a game against, like, they shouldn't make it a game against Cleveland. Cleveland they're going to win freaking 60-something games. They already have 60 wins. So I don't know. I hope, again, I hope they play well. I hope they win. Be great. Am I going to be crazy if they don't? I doubt it. Thanks, Oscar. And Rich, what's going on, Ant? How you doing, buddy? Shamet is developing into a legit 3-and-D wing. I don't know if I would use the word development to describe a player who has I'm going to guess he's 28 years old. How close am I? He is 28. He is 28 as of about 3 weeks ago. That can be huge in the playoffs if he can continue. Also, Precious has feet for hands and both left feet. I mean, I was talking about it before. Obviously, I think Shamet, my percentage chance of him playing a hashtag meaningful role in the first round probably went from like 8% to 20% tonight, 25%. I don't know, something. It was a big jump. I don't know that if they do wind up facing the Celtics in the second round, just because like the Celtics are so adept at taking advantage of like every opportunity you give him, and Shamet, his size is his size. So I don't know how much they're really going to be able to play him in that series when several of their players on their roster who are better than Landry Shamet are the same size as Landry Shamet or smaller. And so it's like, man, how many minutes against Boston are you really going to get where they don't have enough players on the floor to really take advantage of you playing multiple small players on the floor at once? It's it's tough. It's tough. But look, he could help them. Certainly in the first round, he could help them. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's enough. Thanks, Ant. And you got another one here. One of these Sixers rotation players doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Yeah. Well, I mean, they kept talking about the bartender tonight. Yeah. I bartended for a bunch of years. Maybe I could play in the NBA. Don't think I'm going to hold my breath for that one. But Yeah, I mean, look, this is a we were talking about it on the playback. If you could be a fan, putting out like hatred for Philly aside, if you had to be a fan of either the Sixers, the Suns, or the Mavs, who would you choose to be a fan of, like, going into this offseason? And I think everybody was like Philly because they have Maxey, because they have McCain, because they have, uh, the possibility of getting this pick. Um, like, I get that, but they also have, like, it's not dead weight, but they have like 90 something or $100 million invested in two players who, like, what are these guys now? Man, I don't know. I don't know. But it's not great. It's not great unless they get Cooper Flag or one of these good kids. We'll see. Thanks, Ant. Jax Master. OG, oh my, bully ball. Yeah, I saw who had a good stat. I've been using NBA.com for drives per game. I think the wonderful and talented Jared Dubin, who writes the Last Night in Basketball newsletter, which is of course amazing, quoted, let's see. Yeah, let's see if I can get this up really quick. I think he had a stat about OG in his newsletter about he was using, I think, a different site to look for. Yeah, here we go. I'm pulling it up right now. So shout out again. This is from Last Night in Basketball by Jared Dubin, friend of the pod. Um, Prior to Jalen Brunson's injury, Anunoby was averaging 7 drives per 100 possessions via Second Spectrum. So this is at the NBA stat that I usually use. That's per game. This is per 100 possessions. Since Brunson went down, that number has skyrocketed to 11.2 drives per 100, as OG has taken it upon himself to get more involved in the offense. Yeah, tonight, I think it was how many straight games is this of more than 20 points for OG Anunoby? He has, and I said this, I think, after the last game. I'll say it again now. If you look at his best scoring 15 game stretch of his career, like, this absolutely blows this out of the water. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you go, hold on, let's just really put a finer point on this OG thing, because this is heady stuff. The last 7 games, OG Anunoby in the last 7 games, this can't be real, is averaging 28.1 points per game. He is shooting 54.4% from the field. He is shooting 38.5% from 3, and he is shooting 93.2% from the line. That's really good. The guys ahead of him, Nikola Jokic has only played 2 games. Giannis, SGA, Zion, only 2 games. Luka, Paolo Banchero, Kevin Durant. That's it. Those are the players who are averaging more points than OG Anunoby over the last 7 games. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Guy looks like he's worth that contract. I'll tell you that much. Thanks, Jax Master. Ryan Nelson. What's going on, Ryan? Kolek has catalyzed Shamet with a genius passing. Listen, man, whatever it is, I'm happy about it. If those guys have good chemistry together, wonderful. I think part of it just might be opportunity. You know, looking up, let's say, so Shamet over these 4 games. Where are they? Here we go. Let's go. Last 4 games, he's at. So these are the ones without Payne, obviously. Last 4 games, he's at 23.2 minutes a game. So I think, like, look, being able to come in and impact the game in a positive way when you play 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 12 minutes, that's a skill. And I don't know. Maybe it's a skill that Landry Shamet doesn't have. I don't know. But he sure is figuring out ways to impact the game when he gets a little bit more playing time. Because the dude is just like, he's lights out. I mean, he might be the best shooter in the NBA from 3 of the last 4 games. I don't think that's. I might as well look that up. Looking up everything else. Last 4 games, Landry is obviously 3.5 threes per game, made threes per game over the last bunch of games. 51.9%. The only players over the last 4 games who have hit more threes at a greater percentage are Kevin Durant, Lou Dort, Bryce Sensabaugh, shout out to tanking, Ty Jerome, but that's only 1 game, and Isaiah Joe. That's it. Pretty good. Thanks, Ryan. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? Hart always seems to know exactly when to drive when we need a bucket to end an opponent's run. I'll never take that for granted. He did have one big one. It was well. Let me give credit to It was a 9-0 run in the middle of the third quarter. Shamet ended that run with a big 3. It had gotten down to 5, and that was probably the biggest basket of the game. Then it got down to 5 again, and I think maybe Hart was his basket after that. When it got down to 5, that might have been, or maybe it was the next bucket after that. It was somewhere in there. It was a big finish. That said, I just, man, I was saying it tonight. I don't know when's the last time I felt like we got a true like A or A plus Josh Hart game. Like I know he had the triple double recently. Even that one, I don't know that I felt like a real Josh Hart game is unmistakable. And it feels like it's been a little while since we've got one of those. So, but your point is well taken, and we should not take that for granted. We should not take Josh Hart for granted, even as he's struggling. For him, he's still a helpful piece. Thanks, Dan. Kevin Danishevsky, where do the 2020s rank right now in Knicks decades? This is the last super chat of the night. Good place to end it. Kevin always gives me something to chew on before I get out of here. All right, hold on. See, that's such a... Kevin, you knew what you were doing with this. You knew what you were doing with this because all right. I'm going to count, just to make my life easier, I'm going to count the 69-70 season as part, the second half of that season as part of the 70s. The first championship came after 1970 or after the ball dropped, so I'm going to count it. So number 1 is easy. Number 1 is the 70s. They were abominable to start the 60s. So it's better than that. They went to 3 straight finals in the 50s. So this goes behind the 50s. So 70s, number 1. So it's an easy answer. It's 4th. It's 70s, number 1, 90s, number 2, 50s, number 3, 2020s, number 4. And then I'd probably go... I'd go 80s 5. I mean, you could make a case for the 80s above the 2020s. I don't know if that's where you were going with this one. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to for like bang for your buck, 2020s is ahead of the 80s right now. So I'll go 80s 5. I'll go 60s 6 because you did have the last 1, 2, 3 years of the 60s that were good. And then I'll go, what does that leave? That leaves the 2000s and the 2010s. So I'll go 2010s after next, then the 2000s, and then the. I'm not counting the 40s because it was 3 years. So there you go. There's your ranking, Kev. Good question. Say that. All right. That's it. We're done. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Postgame Show. Obviously, if you dig the program, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, give us a rating, a review, all the things that you do when you like a piece of content. I will be back tomorrow night for the aforementioned Cleveland Cavaliers basketball game, which we hope will be a competitive game and maybe even a win for the Knicks, even though they are still going to be shorthanded. I'm sure Andrew's got the pregame pod coming, so check that out. And yeah, glad you guys hung out for this one, and we will be back with more funny games before you know it. Peace out.